to the channel. It's been a while since I put up a video. Thought I'd put up a quick one here today. I'm having a little problem with the garage door. It's really heavy to open, and I'm going to show you how to adjust the spring tension. So let's get at it. So before we start with making any tools to make this process easier, let me show you what we're into. Garage door is behind me, and I'm not sure if you can see that. I'll tip the camera up, see if you can see it. But there's two big springs up at the top. And what they do is you tighten them up, and when you go to open the door, or the powered garage door opener opens the door, they create their own force to lighten the weight of the door to make it easier either by hand or on the motor with the opener. What happens over time is the springs lose their tension. So for those of you that have started to notice your garage door is getting heavier, or your opener won't open it anymore, most likely the problem is the spring. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten up each side of the spring and see what we can do to make this door easier to open. So let's go back to the bench and I'll show you what we have to do to make a tool to do it. So here we are back at the bench. I've got a piece of 1/2 inch solid rod. Any hardware store will have it. Well, I can't say any, but hardware store typically will have this. And this is a 36-inch length, so we're going to cut it in half, and that's going to become the two handles that we need to tension the spring. Now before I keep going, I want to say one thing. Doing this may not be something for everybody. It comes with a fair bit of risk. The spring, as you saw, is quite large, and there's a lot of tension on it. You have to have these two handles. Essentially, we're going to create two handles to tighten the spring. So you have to pay extra attention to making sure that you don't let go of it or lose control of it. If you do, it'll unwind very rapidly and could cause you to fall down off the ladder and hurt yourself. So let's take our time. We'll cut this in half, 36 inches. Let's go with 18, and we'll have two handles. You just take a file and take off any of the sharp edges. Don't look at the cut, it's not square. This is, just because we're going to be handling it, and there's no sense in cutting ourselves with something we could have prevented. So there we go. So the next tool we're going to need is an adjustable wrench. There is a locking screw on the axle that goes across the top of the door. We'll have to loosen that off once we get our hand on the tension with one of these here on the spring to hold it, loosen it off, and then we'll proceed to tighten it, as you'll see. So let's move to the next part. Hey everyone, welcome back. I've brought you up here on the ladder with me. Here is what we're going to be tightening. As I mentioned earlier, there's two screws, these ones here in red. They have to be loosened up, and then basically the rods that we cut earlier become the handles. Put them in the hole. Even though this one's on the other side here, we can't turn it very much, but it's going to give us the ability to hold on to it. So we'll leave that in there. Always keep one hand on the handle and make sure it's fully in the hole. Alright, well, let's get going. One thing we want to make sure is that we count the turns. So we know there's 4 holes, quarter turn, try and keep track. I'm going to aim to put 2 turns on each side, and we'll go from there and see how it feels. That wasn't very tight. Let's hope this one here is the tight one. Yeah, a little better on this one. And just take your time with it. Yep, there's the tension. So you don't want to drop this. So here we go. We'll turn so far, take our rod out, put our rod in. Now, can't go any further. We're going to hold with the second rod, take that rod out. Another way you can keep track of your turns is watch where your screws were. So that's one turn. It's getting pretty stiff. One thing you want to make sure of before you start this is that your garage door is closed and latched, because the tension you're putting on this is going to pull your garage door open. You don't need it getting away from you. So that's 2 turns, and I'm wondering if I shouldn't go a third. Let's go a third. Boy, it's hot in here today. So we're coming up on our third, and we'll tighten it down. So there's 3 right there. We're going to put this in here just in case that wants to get out of control. It'll lock against the bottom of that truss. You don't want this out of control. So we got the first one locked in, now we'll lock in our second. Now, they're both tight. Let's take the tension off. Let's see what happens. We're not going anywhere. All right, so now I'm going to go and do the other side, and we'll see how it opens. Hey guys, we're back on the other side. I've got my 2 rods and my wrench up here. Same thing, except this side's going to turn the opposite direction. You'll see what I mean in a second. Kind of working behind me here. Hopefully you can see this a bit. I'm going to come down. It'll be a little easier for me actually. Alright, so same as before. Make sure that's in all the way. Don't worry about giving it a little movement. Now the last place I should have this is next to my head. So let me see if I can move back a bit. Well, not much, but it is what it is. So we'll start by holding our tension. And slack off our bolts. There we go. So we'll remember this position here to count our turns. Move you guys a little bit that way. There. All right. So let's start. In and tight. Out. In and tight. In and tight, and you see how this goes. That's our 3 turns. Put our second bar in there. Tighten it down. There. All right. Feels good. I can feel it almost wanting to lift the door already. Now, I'll bring you guys down, set you up, see how we did. So I've got the door here, it's unlocked. Let's open the latch and see what happens. You get to see it first. It could take off and run itself to the top with me hanging on, but we'll see what happens. Well, it didn't take off. Well, it starts to a bit. Yeah. Yeah, this could be a crash here. A lot of tension there. That's why you don't want to let go of it. I'm going to catch this rope. Let's see what we end up with here. Yeah, she goes back and she hits hard. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a turnout on each side. So let's give that a whirl. This is just a little too much. It's a lot too much. All right, well, we'll get her pulled down here and get back to taking out a turn or two. All right, guys, let's see where we ended up. It's got to be better. rocks back a bit at the top, but I think the track has got some bends in it or something, but it's better than what it was, so let's go with that. Well, I hope this provided you some information, and maybe you'll try it on your own, maybe you won't, but it's simple. Just take your time, make sure those rods are in there, and make sure you always have one hand on at least one rod. And the other thing to your advantage is that one rod will always jam up against the edge of the building or the end of the top of the door. So don't rely on it, but keep it there to keep yourself safe. Thanks. Hope to see you again soon.